We are going to call to order this regular school board meeting, 10 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. It's a beautiful day in Manatee County. I do want to, before we get going with the agenda, I do want to send, I know my condolences and the rest of the board's condolences to Nashville and the school there with the tragedy yesterday. And you'll see some of our flags are flying half-mast today in honor of that. And I just, as we move forward with school board items and things that we have to do business-wise, I urge the community out there to don't be silent. When you see something, when you hear something, you see something posted, don't be silent. It's important for the district to know what's going on out there. Facebook posts, Instagram posts, Snapchat, whatever the kids use, all that kind of stuff. You see something, your kids hear something, you got to say something. And hopefully we can work to end these tragedies. So with that, Mr. Tatum, you have the vision today.
Okay.
And the invocation.
And the invocation, great. Reading of the district's vision. The school district of Manatee County will be an exemplary, student-focused school system that develops lifelong learners to be globally competitive. And also this morning, we have the pleasure of having Pastor Dante Richardson with us. He is going to do our invocation this morning. He is originally from Haiti, I believe. Is that correct, sir? He's a very learned man. He's a very good man. He speaks a number of different languages to include Français, c'est ça, oui? That's right. He speaks French, he speaks Haitian, he speaks Creole. But today, he will be doing our invocation for us in English. So Pastor Dante Richardson, if you'd please come up and do the invocation, we would be most privileged to hear from you. Thank you.
Everybody will stand. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Richard, for the invitation. Let's pray. Dear Lord, in times like this, our greatest want is one of men and women. Men and women who will not be bought or sold. Men and women who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men and women who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men and women whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. Men and women who will stand for the right, though the heavens fall. Make us, Lord, such caliber of men and women as we are about to parse today's agenda. Give us thy fear, for it is the beginning of knowledge. Give us wisdom, for it giveth life to those who have it. Above all, help us to love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. God of all comfort, comfort thy people, comfort the land, comfort Nashville, comfort us today. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And join me in the pledge. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, thank you, Mr. Tatum. Thank you, Pastor Richardson, for the invocation. Moving to item number 5, information only. The leaves for March and financial statements were on the agenda packet online. Number 6, we'll move to approval of the agenda. The chair has found good cause to amend the agenda to include all items listed under agenda amendments on the March 28, 2023 agenda, updated March 24th, 2023, and posted to the district website, manateeschools.net.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. And if we can vote on our I legislate.
It's not letting me.
It's not up yet.
Nope.
It's okay.
did the second?
Yeah, did somebody hit the second?
Who did the second?
Yeah, we got the second down. There we go. Thank you very much. Go ahead and put in that vote there. And approval of the agenda passes unanimously. Thank you. Number 7, approval of the minutes. Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the minutes from the school board workshop on February 24th, 2023, the school board regular meeting and meeting of the leasing corporation, February 28th, 2023, and the school board workshop on March 3rd, 2023.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. And go ahead and vote. On the system, if you would cast it, and that passes unanimously the approval of the minutes. Thank you very much. Item number 8, recognitions. Mr. Barber, if you want to come on up. The state champ.
Shh, it's a secret. Yeah, right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, board members, and Superintendent Saunders. Perfection in any realm of endeavor is extremely difficult. In the history of the National Football League, only one team has ever gone undefeated for an entire season and through the playoffs, and that was the 1972 Miami Dolphins. They went 17-0. But this young man standing beside me blew that away this year, and you're going to find out about that. So we have a video we'd like to show you to give you a background on this young man. So if you could watch.
Jesse Colas is a state champion. The senior from Braden River wrapped up an amazing season and career recently. The Pirate Wrestler placed 7th at state last year, but went an unbelievable 71-0 in his final season, finishing it off with a state title. But it wasn't always this easy. It started when he was recruited to try the sport by Coach Cesar Charbonneau as a freshman.
He showed potential. He had athletic ability. He wasn't sure he liked the sport.
Took my time with it, tried to learn as much as I could. Got my butt kicked a couple times by the upperclassmen. Just try to take my time and learn.
Jesse kept grinding. After winning the JV County title, he set his sights on bigger things, but not after some growing pains.
He tells all the new kids, he said his biggest downfall, his biggest regret in wrestling is that he didn't start taking it serious sooner. He waited until after his sophomore year, where he was first year varsity.
His junior year, he made it to state, but fell just short of the mat in the finals.
Last season, I had a different mindset. I was like a junior, and I was thinking to myself, well, whatever happens, I have one more year. So I was just content with, just being there and trying to place top 4. And then also, I thought because somebody was ranked higher than me or had a better record than me, I thought that I wouldn't win.
That turned into a whole new goal for his final high school season.
I told him before the season started that my goal was to get him beat. If I'm not getting him beat, I'm not getting him tough enough competition. And yet, everything I threw at him, I bumped him up weight classes. He was weighing in at 180 pounds, and I'm making him wrestle 198 against kids who took 4th in the state last year who outweigh him by 20 pounds.
Sounds like a pretty great way to fail, if you will. After some nervous moments in the state tournament, Jesse finally got his shot.
I had a doozy in the semifinal. I was down 4-1 at the start of the 3rd quarter, and then I got an escape to tie it, and then took him down twice to win. The first day, I thought I was going to be in the state finals for sure. I was just like, beat him, make it to state finals, be all good. But when I got there, I was just like, dang, okay, I'm kind of nervous now. I'm down, and I, ended up pulling through, taking him down twice in the 3rd period to win. And then in the state finals, I took care of business.
Now, after wrapping up a high school wrestling career as a state champion, Jesse is talking to colleges that want his skills in the mat as he gains a degree. Looking back at the state championship match, it was a moment of bonding for coach and for student athlete.
He ran over. There's a great shot. There's a video and there's a shot of him grabbing you and hugging you, and he actually lifts you up too.
I didn't tell him not to jump on me. I think in his head, he knew my knee was jacked up, so he just kind of came over, grabbed me, and squeezed me and picked me up in the air. which was good because if he would have jumped on me, I probably would have buckled my knee.
I should have threw it. I keep kicking myself. I should have hit him with a lat chop or something like that.
It's a special moment. It's a special moment that not many get to experience. Like the sport of wrestling, it creates that bond. I mean, he's one of mine, and he will forever be one of mine.
So Jesse Colas capped his 71-0 senior season by winning the Class 2A state championship with a 5-3 decision over Satellite High School's Michael McCarthy on Saturday, March 4th, 2023 at the Silver Spurs Arena in Kissimmee. And again, this is his coach, Cesar Charbonneau. I also want to let you know that his parents are in the audience. If you could stand up, please. It's Manouche Provolone and Jonas Colas, and then also here from Braden River High is Principal Carl Ackerman and Athletic Director Matt Nesser. So thank you for being here. So I'm going to let Jesse and the coach say a few words. And so.
Hi, I'm Jesse. I just want to say thank you for letting me and my coach and my parents and my principal and Nesser to come and, you know, share this moment. You know, yeah, thank you. And I just want to say, like, it was a pretty long season, and you know, I'm glad I capped it off with a win. You know, so yeah.
Not a whole lot to say that the video didn't already cover. You can see emotionally wise where I'm at. That's what wrestling does. Jesse is my third. Two at Braden River, one at Sarasota. But he is one of my first to actually take from a freshman year, inexperienced, never wrestled a day in his life kid who at the time was 134-pound beanpole. He was a little skinny kid. When he decided after that season, after his JV year, to not play football anymore, I think football was like, it's okay. He's really not made for football anyway. And then the last 2 years after they saw what he developed into, they were like, hey, you want to come back for football? We could use a 6'2", 180, 190-pound athlete, but he holds a special place. I tell the kids all the time, it's what you put in is what you get out with wrestling. And he's been that kid. I've got kids that are have been doing it longer. I've got kids that say they want it, but ever since his sophomore summer, his sophomore off season, he has done every single thing asked of him, and then some. He is the most. He can take what he learns and applies it, and he's constantly being a student of the game. We go to weekend tournaments on the weekend, and you'll have all the kids playing video games. He's watching wrestling videos, asking me questions. That's what I told the kids. I'm like, that's why he is who he is. It's not just because he's an athlete. It's because the effort and the work that he's put in. So now the goal is to have him take that to the next level and use it to get his education. But thank you for allowing us to come.
Absolutely.
Make a comment there real quick.
Absolutely.
There's a good quote from General Douglas MacArthur about athletics, and he said that on the fields of friendly strife, this is actually as you walk onto the athletic fields at West Point, the quote is, on the fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds which on other fields and on other days will bear the fruits of victory. And so that, you might think that has a military aspect to it, and it does obviously at West Point, but that's the battles of life that we're going to fight. And when I look at a young man like this, out there on the fields of friendly strife, literally in battle with his fellow human beings, but in a friendly way, in a competitive way, he's certainly prepared his mind and his body for those battles that will come to all of us in life. So congratulations again, not only for winning this championship, but also just for doing a great job in preparing yourself for the life challenges that you'll have ahead. So good luck with that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. See you guys. Thank you. Yeah, great story. 71-0. Jeez. A lot of matches. Brings us to item number 9, public comment. We have one public comment signed up for the general public comment, and that is Alexandra Smith. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, for the record, my name is Alexandra Smith, and my son attends Tillman Elementary. So after reviewing the library and media material reconsideration procedure online, I understand that per item 6, if the reconsideration of a book or other media material is not resolved at the school level, the school board will review it and determine whether it should remain in the libraries. I would like to share the results of some notable court cases to aid in your decision making. For time, I won't read the full case titles, but I've highlighted them and their summaries in full for y'all in my resource packet that I gave to the agency clerk earlier. In 1976, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit ruled against an Ohio school board removing library books, upholding the student's First Amendment right to receive information and the librarian's right to disseminate it. Quote, "The removal of books from a school library is a serious burden upon the freedom of classroom discussion." In 1978, a U.S. District Court ruled against a Massachusetts school committee for barring a poetry anthology that included a, quote, "offensive and damaging poem." The judge ruled a student learns that a library is a place to test or expand upon ideas presented to him in or out of the classroom. The most effective antidote to the poison of mindless orthodoxy is ready access to a broad sweep of ideas and philosophies, and there is no danger from such exposure. The danger is mind control. In 1982, New York school board members sought the removal of 8 books they described as anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-Semitic, and just plain filthy. They voted to remove them from the library. Ultimately, the U.S. Supreme Court disagreed and held that school boards do not have unrestricted authority to select library books, and that the First Amendment is implicated when books are removed arbitrarily. Justice Brennan wrote, "Local school boards may not remove books from school library shelves simply because they dislike the ideas contained in those books." In 1995, the Fifth Circuit Court observed that, quote, "In light of the special role of the school library as a place where students may freely and voluntarily explore diverse topics, the school board's non-curricular decision to remove a book well after it had been placed in the public school libraries evokes the question whether that action might not be an attempt to strangle the free mind at its source." In 2003 in St. Louis, a court ruled that, quote, "depictions of violence alone cannot fall within the legal definition of obscenity for minors, and that a government cannot silence protected speech for children by wrapping itself in the cloak of parental authority." Regarding your reconsideration procedure online, by requiring parental consent for question materials in points 4.7 and 6.5, I'd like to note that in 2003, a school board in Arkansas voted to restrict students' access to Harry Potter books. Students were required to obtain a signed permission slip from their guardians before they would be allowed to borrow any of those books. The district court overturned that board's decision on the grounds that the restriction itself violated students' First Amendment right to read and receive information. The court noted that while the board performed highly discretionary functions related to the operation of the schools, it was still bound by the Bill of Rights and could not abridge students' First Amendment right to read a book. I hope you take these lawsuit results into consideration going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is it for public comment. Item number 10, consent items. Superintendent?
Yes, I recommend the approval of the consent agenda for March 28th, 2023.
So moved.
I'll second.
We've got a motion, we've got a second, and we will vote when it hits your screen. There you go, if everybody casts their votes. The consent items pass unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving to item number 11, public hearing. So I'm going to close this regular meeting and open up the public meeting for the board to hear comments regarding the proposed amendments to policies and answer questions related to those as well. So the first one, public hearing for consideration to amend school board policies. If anybody, we do have someone signed up for public hearing comment, Alexandra Smith. No worries.
Again, for the record, my name is Alexandra Smith. Personally, I would appreciate clarification on policies 1122/3122/4122, non-discrimination and equal employment opportunity revised, and policy 2260, non-discrimination and access to equal education opportunity revised. It states that HB 7 makes it unlawful discrimination to subject students, employees, or any individual to any activity that espouses, promotes, advances, inculcates, or compels them to believe that certain concepts are discriminatory. The policy reads like it could result in a never-ending who's on first. A board member and any other person, not just students or staff or another board member, but any individual, as the policy states, are having a conversation, which would fall under the any activity phrasing. Now, board member says, simply says, because advances means the same thing. So board member says something is discriminatory because certain concepts are not defined in your policy. It could be anything. So board member says something is discriminatory to person A. Person A can now say to the board member that that statement is discrimination against person A. And after person A says board member has discriminated against them, board member can now say that that person A has discriminated against the board member, and on into infinity. Because ultimately the policy reads to me that even saying anything is discriminatory is discrimination, and wouldn't that make the policy itself discrimination? I do not understand how the language used in this policy will apply because it is far too vague. I believe listing out specifically which concepts, not a blanket certain concepts, and which activities, because surely conversations are different from trainings, presentations, and workshops, are considered to be discriminatory. These specifications will help guide any individual from thinking they are a victim. I believe amending this policy before approving it will support your staff, students, parents, and ultimately the board members who do not want to open themselves to who's on first discrimination lawsuits. Thank you.
Thank you. And because it's a public hearing, this is opened up to anybody who wants to do public comment. So is there anyone else that would like to hear public comment? Okay. Moving to number 2, the approval of the amendment to the school board policies. Does the board want to get a clarification on that number? I believe you said 2260. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was 2260 and 112/312/412.
Yeah.
Equal opportunity employment.
Okay.
Equal education.
Yep. So if Mr. Chapman, if you'd like to come up and give us your thoughts on those 2 policies to the board, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is the public hearing for these policies. They've been publicly noticed for 30 days, and this is our time or your time to vote to approve these. As I'm looking at policy 2260 and the changes that are advertised to be made, I don't see what the public commenter was referring to. I know the subject matter, but
you're on 2260 first.
Right.
Okay.
The advertised changes are in green and purple and red. So I don't see where that change is. I can talk to the substance of that of the comment.
Well,
but
can I ask you this, Mr. Chapman?
Yes.
The changes we're making, so 2260, the non-discrimination, access to equal education opportunity, was already in our policies.
Correct.
We are changing what's in the green.
Correct.
Which says the board is not, as a condition of employment, membership, certification, licensing, credentialing, or passing examination, subject individual to training, instruction, or any other required activity that is prohibited under FS 76010, etc. That is due to HB 7 passing last
Correct.
session, correct?
Correct. Those are statutory changes that must be made to our policies per our, per our Neola service that provides that to us.
Right, as an update from the district.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is to the board, it's in the statute, and they list obviously the Florida statutes that are there and why we're adding it. To to me, it's something that needs to be added because it was in past and it's a state legislature issue. That's just that's my opinion.
And those three statutes, go into great depth
Further
about
detail
what
than what we put on the policy. Yeah.
right, that what is prohibited.
Ms. Foreman?
Have we compared the language in the policy to the statute?
Yes,
And the suggested changes align?
correct. We can go back and add, or if you all want to discuss adding
Ms. Spray had
more
a
to
comment.
this.
That wasn't on this topic, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, if, there was a lot of legislation in the last session that makes things difficult. And I am going to follow up and read, statute versus this and see, and compare, but, I don't think we're in a position, if it matches statutory language, to do anything other than accept state law.
Well, and it is. Thank you, Ms. Foreman. Or any other required activity, which I think is what the question was. It does go on to say that is prohibited under Florida statute 706 and 1000. It defines exactly what that required activity is. There's no ambiguity to other required activity. If there was a period there, perhaps, but it's or other activity that is prohibited under those two statutes. So there is no ambiguity. It's defined in those two statutes.
Right, and then you move to those statutes to see what activities are actually prohibited. Mr. Dye, did you have your hand up?
Well, to try to assist the board. As Mr. Chapman said, this was fully workshopped, and y'all engage Neola to accurately insert statutory updates into your policies.
That is then backed by their legal counsel.
Yes. You pay them a lot of money to do that. So it'd be pretty extraordinary to go through and individually just make sure they did it exactly correctly. And the purpose of this hearing is for the public to express their opinion. I mean, they may not like what happened in the last legislative session.
Sure.
But you're bound to follow it. And so I just encourage the board to not get too sidetracked.
Was there Ms. Spray, did you have your hand up for the public hearing part? I know you said it was another topic, but.
No, it's on our policies. I had talked to Mr. Chapman prior to the meeting starting. There is a lot of things going on with the legislative process regarding a lot of different topics. And the reason I put my hand up was because I wanted to get the consensus of the board, basically, to be able to get ahead of some of these things that are coming down from Tallahassee to us regarding not only these policies, but policies in the future regarding books in our libraries and all of those kind of things, because there are some changes coming. And I would like to, I've already talked to Mr. Chapman, I'd like to talk to him about a couple of those policies and get some input, along with maybe talking with legal on how we can approach that before it's actually in our lap, to be honest with you. So that's basically all I was gonna make a comment on, is there's gonna be a lot of changes. And I'd like us as a board to get ahead of that a little bit.
Thank you, Ms. Brett. Yeah, we have, I'll be up here soon here in the next couple of, whatever number that is. And that next set of policies will be board workshopped on, I believe, April 12th. And that may be a good time for board discussion on that point. And we'll see where we are with, Neil is very quick usually when the laws pass that, to get these changes out. as quick as possible. But as the legal beagles over here would say, when the law has changed, that is the law, meaning even though our policies may take some time to catch up, what's in the law is the law. So and if our policy is different from the law trumps the policy until we can get it changed. So, but we can figure out where we are on April 12th, and like you said, there's a lot of changes coming with library books and curriculum and things, and we'll just see where we are on the April 12th workshop with those policies, and we can add and edit. Well, you all will add and edit what you'd like.
Mr. Tatum, you're on the board.
Sure. My comment is just about the legislative process in the sense of, you're right, these laws have been passed by our legislature and we have to follow them, and they may be somewhat vague and they may not be exactly as precise as we would like them to be, but they are the law now, and then someone has to interpret them, and we have engaged this organization called Neola to do that. And you know, this is the part of the democratic process in the sense that there are issues that are brought up within society, and then people in positions of legislative authority are given those issues to deal with, and the way that legislators deal with those situations is they write laws. And unfortunately, some of these, what we call them, social issues that have come up need to be dealt with, and it's hard to do that perfectly with the legislative process, but the law is the law as it is for now, and if we're not happy with it, then we can go back and talk to our legislators. The public can go back and talk to their legislators and tell them what they're not happy about, but the legislative process has run its course, and the law is the law, and then we have to make sure that our policies comply with that. Whether, you know, if I were king, would I have written the law differently and maybe made it more precise, taken that word out here, taken that word out there? No, but that's why we have a legislature to do that, and the law is the law. And then we have courts if people feel like their rights are being violated or something. We have a legislative balance of power, or a judicial balance of power against that legislation. So just a quick education reminding us all of how this process happens. It wasn't done in a vacuum. It wasn't decreed by the governor of the state of Florida. It was a legislative process between the executive branch and the judicial and the legislative branches of the government, and then eventually the judicial branch can roll in if people aren't happy with what the legislative and executive branch has done, and they can also redress their grievances to the executive branch as well as the legislative branch of the government. So that's where we are. Thank you.
Yeah.
I see no one else on the board to speak. So I'm going to move the item. Thank you, Mr. Chapman. I'm going to move to item number 2, approval to amend school board policy. Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval to amend school board policies, and there's a long list. 1121.01, 3121.01, 4121.01, 1122, 3122, 4122, 2260, 1122.01, 3122.01, 4122.01, 1362, 3362, 4362, 5517, 3120.04, 8100, 9800, 8407, 9142.
Before we vote on that, I got to close the public hearing real quick and reopen. Forgot to do that before we went to you, Ms. Saunders. So I'm closing the public hearing and reconvening the regular meeting. And so I don't know, do we want to reread those? I don't think we need to reread those for the regular meeting. So we had the superintendent recommendation.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second.
Need to hit your button.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Perfect. Speaker, oh, no, that was from last time. And go ahead and cast your votes there for the approval to amend the school board policies. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 14, new business, non-consent items. Approval of the budget amendment for January 2023. Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the budget amendments for January 2023.
So moved.
I'll second.
I've got a motion, a second. Ms. Sellers, if you want to come up, explain the amendments to us.
Everybody. So I wanted to highlight in the January budget amendments and the board work, there was not a significant amount of activity of chart strings and functions that were over $1 million. There were 535 budget amendments, 2,315 chart strings affected. And in regards to the entry with the chart strings that were over $1 million in the general fund, we had 1.3 million related to interest income revenue increase, and we had 2.4 in regards to the DOE third calculation. And then there was a reclassification related to the MTC workforce program budget of 1.3 million, and then we also moved some utility reserves from the reserve cost center and electricity cost center to some school and department cost centers at 3.3 million. There was one in the special revenue related to the IDEA grant that was correcting an object code for behavior specialists of 1.2 million. And in regards to the functions within budgets that had changed over $1 million in the general fund, there were revenues increased 2.3 million. The elements related to that one was the DOE third calc changes, the higher income, interest income of 1.4 million, some additional grant revenue, and including some vocational rehab and FSAG revenue, and then some other miscellaneous increases. Also, the instructional decreased 3 million, and that was also related due to the third calc received some school recognition from moved from reserve to schools and correct functions and objects, and some other miscellaneous decreases.
We do have it. Thank you very much. We do have a question.
Yes.
On the board, Ms. Foreman.
Yes, the third calc, I assume that increase is because of an increase in enrollment?
I believe, yes. Yes.
And do you know how many students?
Each year we're going up about 1,000 net gain. So and we're projecting the same for the next year as well.
Nobody else is lit to speak, so thank you very much. We have a motion. We have a second on approving the budget amendments for January 2023. Go ahead and cast your votes now. And that passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Moving on, new business item number 2, approval of advertising and notice of intent to amend school board policies and setting a public hearing at the board meeting on May 9th, 2023. Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval of advertising a notice of intent to amend school board policies and setting a public hearing at the board meeting on May 9th, 2023. The policies numbered are 1210, 3210, 4210, 1213, 2111, 2271, 2416, 2520, 3120, 6480, 8320, 8600, and these will be workshopped as stated prior to the vote.
Thank you.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
and a second. No discussion there, so go ahead and cast your vote now for the approval to advertise a notice to intent to amend the school board policies and setting a public hearing at the board meeting on May 9th, 2023. That passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Number 3, business item, approval of agreement for purchase and sale of property from Rye Ranch LLC. Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval of agreement for purchase and sale of property from Rye Ranch LLC.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
So moved.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second. And before we get into, anybody has comment, Superintendent, I don't know if you want to do this or Mr. Penley, whoever would want to
Actually, I have Mr. Penley here to go over.
discuss what that means.
Yeah, in
For the public.
detail if
Sure.
need be.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me up. Today I'm here to present for your consideration an agreement for 18 acres located in North River Ranch, and the 18 acres would be for an eventual elementary school. Now, this property is located about 1 mile south of the intersection of Rutland Road and North Rye Road. I can't give you a specific address because there are no roads to the site at this time. But it is between Rutland Road and North Rye Road. Now, Rye Ranch is a mixed-use development, and they received approval for 3,500 dwelling units in addition to commercial and office uses. So it's quite a large development. This agreement specifies that the purchase price would be based on the average of 2 appraisals. One of the appraisals would be performed by the seller at their cost, and one of the appraisals would be performed by the school district at our cost, and we would average those. I know there was a question regarding what we thought that value would be, so I can answer that. Generally, sales in that area are going for about $100,000 an acre, up to $125,000 an acre. So we would anticipate that the cost would be between 1.8 million and 2.2 million, 2,250,000. But again, that would be determined by the appraisals. The payment for this property would be at our option. It would either be for impact fee credits or we would pay cash. Immediately upon approval, we would deposit $10,000 earnest money. And that is the beginning of a 180-day feasibility period. During this feasibility period, we will be doing due diligence on the property. What that means is we would be doing geotechnical testing for the soils. We would do phase 1 and a limited phase 2 environmental test. We would do ecological studies for flora and fauna and a number of other issues. But all of that happens within that 180 days, and that if there's anything we don't like within that 180-day period, we can walk away. Our deposit is refunded. As I mentioned, there's no address for the site because there's no roads to the site. So,
Mr. Penley, can you tell them the purpose of that site in relation to Barbara Harvey Elementary?
you mean the distance?
Well, it's positioned to take
Yes.
the overcrowding
Yes.
of that one site.
Yeah, it would significantly help Harvey Elementary, which is, it's going to continue to be impacted due to all the growth in the county. So this would be the reliever school for this, for Harvey. And I can tell you that Harvey is about 6.6 miles exactly from this site as a straight line, so as the crow flies. As I mentioned, there's no roads to the site, but the seller is required to install roads, water, sewer, reclaimed water, sidewalks, and everything to serve the school site by December 31st of 2024. Once they install all the improvements and they're accepted by the county, then we would close on the site. So we don't actually close until everything's in position and we're satisfied. There's also, well, let me mention something. This site is a little smaller than our normal site. We typically get 20 acres. This one's 18 acres. The reason for that is that the seller has agreed to take all of our storm water. So we're not going to have on-site retention. So that saves a lot of property for us. The downfall of that, so that's the upside. The downside of it is that we won't be able to dig dirt from our own ponds to help fill the site when we get ready to develop. But this agreement envisions a separate agreement with the seller that would allow us to purchase dirt from them. Now, we can purchase dirt anywhere, okay? But here's the thing about dirt. It's not the cost of the dirt, it's the cost of the transport. So if they're digging right next door, it'd probably be very favorable for us to purchase that from them. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you
I
have.
believe too, just a real quick, there's going to be a public park right next to the school as well.
There
correct?
is,
So at least there's some green space, next to it
yes.
for the elementary school. I'm sure to be able to use. We do have people on the board for questions. Ms. Spray?
Good morning. I follow the county commission meetings, and they are approving development after development. And you stated that there's going to be 3,500
Yes.
dwellings out there. If there were one student per house, that's a lot of kids.
If
Go
I
ahead.
can, I'm going to break that down for you.
Great.
We project that those 3,500 dwellings will produce 619 elementary students.
Okay. Then my next question would be, I guess, for you, Ms. Saunders.
Yes, ma'am.
High school, with all the building that's going on out there, how are we we're gonna,
I do have a high school projected on our 5-year capital plan to begin
Right.
in 3 years. It's been moved up. We do also have a middle school site in conversation in that same area of Rye Ranch that we don't have the contract finalized. I'm hoping to have one done before June 30th.
Right.
So that I've got that locked in. Remember, we've got a K-8 east of Lorraine. You've got another elementary site we closed on east. You've got this one in the north area, possibly a middle school too. You have the Neal Middle School north that we're gonna start on this next year. And we also have another elementary contract that'll probably come to you before June 30th in Artisan Lakes.
Okay.
So we've got enough sites for 5 years.
okay,
For 5 years. Now, after 5 years, but forecasted out, you've got a high school, 2 or 3 more elementary, and at least one more middle school coming to you for approval. That should get you to there, and then you'll have to forecast after that,
And we are adding to Lakewood Ranch High School, and we're adding to
Parish.
Community
Right.
High School.
right,
And we can put a wing on at Braden River High. We've got it in our plan if needed also.
okay, because, the projection of development out there is massive, and I'm more, you say 18 acres, we could never put K through 8 there, right? Because it's
No,
too small.
we
Right.
spoke about that.
Yeah.
We needed more elementary students than the K-8 could hold. So that's why we're in negotiation for a middle school site also. It gives you more students splitting it than the K-8. But that could come before you before June.
Because I did look at the map at where this is in conjunction with the other elementary schools that we have out there, and it's kind of like, okay, that's a really good spot to land one.
So, as Ms. Saunders said, we are in discussions on a middle school site, and she said it was close to this. It's very close. It's just on the other side of Rutland Road.
Oh, okay.
So it's the same owner. They don't have any approvals on that property yet, so they're trying to figure out exactly where that site would be within their future development. So we're kind of waiting on them to decide that, but we're in some discussions with them on that, and they want to partner with us there.
Okay, I can talk to you offline. I'd like to get a list of all the properties that we actually have, and
Sure.
yeah.
I've got a map for you, and in our briefings, I can give it to each of you so you
Yeah.
know where we've already closed and where we're working on negotiation of
Yeah.
closing as well.
to have that in one packet would be nice, you know, because I've looked through some of the 5-year and all of those plans, and it's like, okay, this one, then you go down the rabbit hole, like I say, and then you're into another one. So, yeah, from what I saw, and again, you know, my concern too is being able to handle all the growth out there. If we can get ahead of that, then I'm all for that, because I think we're just gonna be bursting at the seams with students in the next, yeah, we already are, you're right, exactly, Ms. Messenger, but I think we're gonna even more so, be more so overcrowded in a lot of our schools. So that's all the questions I had. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Foreman, you're next.
Yeah, I just have some questions about the location, and my questions make, you know, our concern about traffic, you know. Based on what you're showing, is access going to be directly from Rye Road or Rutland?
No, ma'am. So,
No, go ahead, go ahead.
okay. No, access will not be from either of those roads. There is, the developer is extending Golf Course Road, which is on the west side of, trying to get this straight in my head now, the west side of.
The river, that little reach of Williams is, it's like just north of that, right?
Yes.
On our map that you all gave for us?
Yes. So they're extending Golf Course Road, and then there is going to be a road which they're currently calling Spine Road. I mean, it's just a placeholder. And we would front on that Spine Road, and then that would take you out to Rutland Road.
Okay. So the environment of this would it be more in terms of a neighborhood school, or would it be more like, say, Williams Elementary, where it is on, you know, or the schools that are on Moccasin Wallow Road?
I think.
I can answer that, I think.
Okay.
So I spoke to them, and it is neighborhood. So it's gonna be, it's not on, like Mr. Pinley said, it's not right on Rye or Rutland, it's gonna be in the neighborhood. And their goal is to golf cart trails, bike trails, walking trails, so the neighborhood can walk and never get on the main roads to go to the school.
But if you're north of Rutland, you've got to cross. Is Rutland, how?
That would be correct.
Is that gonna
That would
be
be
4
correct,
lane, 6 lane? Lane?
I can't answer that. You've stumped me there. I don't know. Don't know that.
Okay, ask them to make.
Probably 2 until they really need 4, and then we'll go to 4.
Yeah, I'm sure eventually it will be 4 lane.
Well, no, I mean,
just
you know,
don't-
if it's a busy road, that could become a issue.
I just don't know if it's programmed right now with the county, but I'm sure it will be in the future.
Rye is not currently 4 lanes, is it? But it's big enough, I think, to do 4 lanes if they redid the lines. It is pretty big. Well, that north part I think is pretty wide, but it's.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
It's doable for 4 lanes.
Well, I would like an overpass for the golf carts and the pedestrians.
Yeah.
Just like the villages.
Correct.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah, actually, they have little tunnels and, so it's an underpass.
You know, we actually have some of those out in the Lakewood Ranch area near some of our schools, and you will drive over them and not even realize it.
Yeah.
But I think we do have an issue there, that you're gonna have people crossing Rutland and Rye to get to school, and that's not ideal.
Ask the parents of Gillette.
Hmm?
Ask the parents at Gillette, right? And you mean some of those others, so. Was that it?
Yeah.
Mr. Tatum.
Hello,
And
Mr.
Ms.
President.
Hello.
So could you help us understand how the property will be paid for, whether it's going to be cash or impact fees, and how we will figure that out eventually? What's the
It's at our option right now, and impact fee credits, let me back up a little bit. We started with impact fee credits. in a way that's burdensome to manage. And at our current impact fees, which are for a single family at $6,127, I'm thinking this is around, quickly in my head, around 300 dwellings. So it just depends where we are at that point in time. So if they've already developed, 500 or 600 dwellings up there, we're going to have the cash from that money, or from that development, and we would just pay cash for it. If not, we would do the impact fee credits, but it is at our option which to do.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand, how the process would work. So what you're saying is, when they build the dwellings, houses, whatever, then we get impact fees when the purchase closes, and then we would have a pot of money
Correct.
to go ahead and purchase the land with cash.
That's correct.
Or if they hadn't developed enough houses yet, or built enough houses yet for us to have that pot of money, then we would just start giving them impact fee credits equal to whatever we decide on as the sale of the property.
That is correct.
Okay, good. Okay, let's see. And going to Mrs. Foreman's point, how do we coordinate with the county to make sure that infrastructure is in place for our schools? I believe, I'm new here, but I've heard stories that when Parish High School was built, that maybe there's only a 2-lane road there. There wasn't even a sidewalk going to the school, and there were some issues there at the beginning of setting up Parish High School, and then there were traffic problems and maybe even some safety problems for children. So do we have a coordination process to try and do what Mrs. Foreman is talking about and alleviate that?
Yes, the county adopts a capital improvement plan. They do it annually, and they show all their future improvements. I can't answer about Rutland Road right now, but we do monitor what improvements are occurring, and we also have quarterly meetings with the county, with their transportation folks and their planning folks, where we talk about these type things. So those meetings are actually held in our department, and they're specific to issues like this.
Okay. And do we say, though, gee, wouldn't it be nice if we had a 4-lane road there before this happened, or it would be nice to have a nice underpass or a beautiful overpass with flowers or something? I'm just curious, like, how did it happen that, and again, I'm not trying to set blame, I'm just trying to make the process better. How did it happen that maybe the county's infrastructure was not in place as we built our own infrastructure for Parish High School? And is there a better way to, like, I've had the idea of having a quarterly meeting, not quarterly, but maybe a biannual meeting between the county commissioners and us, where we sit down and talk about these kind of things, although that's a pretty high-level meeting, I guess. But my question is, could we improve the process so that the county's infrastructure is in place at the same time that the school opens up?
Yes, sir. Certainly, there's always room for improvement.
Remember, we communicate where we're building in our timeline.
Yep.
We do not control
right.
their decision-making and so forth. It's in both parties' best interest to have roads and infrastructure at the same time, and for whatever reason, that didn't happen. So there will be those meetings when and if the board approves this, as well as all of them. Myself and Mr. Wagner also meet with the county administrator. Not only do we talk about where our school sites are, we talk about existing sites that were built a long time ago before sidewalks and those type of things had to be put in place. There's also a procedure and a process with Mr. Penley's department and us where we say, we've got major safety problems in some of our inner corridor schools. We need you to put some sidewalks or something over here. And then they work on that in conjunction. So in a perfect world, when we give them all these sites that are coming, they shift or make sure that they're putting their roads and their 4 lanes and their infrastructure at the same time. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. Many times when we built Gullet and some of those other schools, there was nothing out there. When Witt was built, there was nothing there. That's not how it is now. They're building and selling houses in droves. So I think both parties are trying to keep up with that growth. So I will have a meeting with Mr. Washington. I met with him last week. Mr. Wagner and I, Mr. Penley will go over and meet with him personally. He's the interim county administrator. And then his department continues quarterly with their meetings. So from the highest level on down, we'll know here's what the board's approved. Here's the timeline that we're going to have these schools built. So hopefully they'll be prepared as well. But this one's really vital. This one and the property on the Neal site are vital to the relief of crowding at Barbara Harvey. Right now are probably our biggest issue.
Well, what could we do then as elected officials, even at the county and up here? Because when the parents start driving there and there's all kinds of traffic, they probably aren't going to call you and Mr. Wagner. They're going to call me and Ms. Foreman and Kevin Van Alstenbridge.
They call everybody.
Well, maybe they do.
And the governor.
Well, I guess we're all going to be. They're going to look at us, everyone in a leadership position, and they're going to say, "Why didn't you guys think about this?" And we'll go, "Well, the county." And I was just wondering if there's maybe, like I said, maybe we could have a biannual meeting between the county commissioners and the school board and highlight like these are our top 2 priorities here. We need you to really work on this or something.
We'll give you, like we stated, you'll get a map of all the sites that are projected in the dates. So when you're meeting with the county administrators as well, you can emphasize that so that when they're planning their roads and their budget, for their 5-year capital plan, because they have other priorities too. It's not just based about the schools. So in a perfect world, they both coincide, but sometimes they're not on the same calendar year that ours are. But we have to build them to keep up with concurrency and capacity issues. But we'll certainly work on it. We'll have our meeting soon. We'll give you the list. You can follow up with the commissioners, and hopefully they're both building roads when we're building the schools.
Just real quick, quarterly we meet, I think it's quarterly, the Council of Governments, I don't think you've been at one yet, where we do meet and everybody sits down, the city, the county, everybody's there to express. So that'd be the great time to talk about that and make sure that they are aware, hey, school's going to be here 2024-ish, 5, whatever, that they're aware. So that'd be the great time to do that.
Yes, it just seems like good governance. I mean, to serve the citizens better, this is a public project between the county and the school system, and somehow coordinating these things in advance so the county infrastructure shows up at the same time that the school needs it would just, we could make it happen. We just need to maybe improve our processes or start talking earlier, or, one of the issues is the idea that we can't all talk about this amongst ourselves because we have to vote on this, so we'd have to do it at a council meeting or a bilateral meeting or something like that. So, but I'm just planting that seed that maybe this is an area for improvement in the process.
So let me just add one additional thing. During the feasibility period, that 180-day period, we are required to go to the county. This is pursuant to statute. Required to go to the county commission and inform them of this potential school site, and they have to vote on whether or not it is consistent with their comprehensive plan. So they get a full analysis of the site. They're aware of it at that point. And we've done that on every school since 2005, maybe 2008, right around that period.
So would you see it being helpful then, though, for school board members to contact the county commissioners and say it's hard to do one-on-one, but maybe the chairman, I don't know, some way where we are working closer together with them to say, would you bump this up on because whatever's happening, it didn't happen at Parish, and I'm trying to avoid this happening again where the county infrastructure is not in place when the school's ready to open, and what can we do to improve the process, and how could we as school board members help to make that process work better so that the infrastructure is in place when the school opens.
I think communication is always vital, but one thing you could do is, instead of each of you reaching out, maybe have the board adopt something and send a letter to the chairman of the county commission saying, hey, here's what's planned. And, you know, maybe not for just this school, but for over our 5-year period, and, you know, asking them to prepare their infrastructure accordingly.
And so maybe someone like you could write that letter and say, at this, here's what we need. We need a 4-lane road, or we need turn lanes, and we need traffic light for this. And almost detailing that out so that when we send that letter, it's not vague, but it's very specific about this is the infrastructure. And we could work with them too, because maybe we don't know what we need, although you probably do because you're an expert at this. But that would be a great idea, I think, like you said, like here's what's coming up in the next 5 years. And boy, if we had a 4-lane road and a traffic light and a turn lane, boy, this would be very helpful.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, to me, that's the type of thing, if they had that letter, that could be a discussion at the Council of Governments meeting. I think that's the appropriate place.
But I would assume that when you all get together, your team and their team get together, that discussion's happening about traffic, about flow of things. What is it? I mean, or maybe not.
It is. We go over every single project that we are currently working on, and upcoming projects, and school sites that we are purchasing, and we let them know time frames for things. So it's at least at the staff level. Now, I'm not saying it gets up to the county commission, but the staff is who I would meet with.
Well, that's my point, is that apparently for whatever reason it didn't happen at Parish, and it may just be sitting, boiling down at the underneath, but we're the ones that are responsible for making sure that it happens. It's just making sure it happens, or at least that we've sent a letter to them, and if it doesn't happen, then, when Mrs. Jones, who buys her house out in Rye Ranch, says, or near Rye Ranch, I have to wait 15 minutes, in a line to get off Rutland Road to get my kid to school. At least I can pull out the letter and say, well, we tried to work with the county commission. I'm just saying it's not happening, at least in some cases, and how can we make it happen so that the infrastructure is in place, and maybe it needs to rise to a higher level. We could workshop this. I mean, I don't want to take too much time. We're at a school board meeting, but maybe it's a workshop item where we could just talk about writing this letter and having it ready for the next council. What do you call that meeting again? The Council
of Governments.
Council of Governments. That might be a nice idea, but I don't want to bog down this meeting with that. Okay, so that was my question there about coordinating on infrastructure, and then apparently it will be a neighborhood school where it's kind of nestled in the center of a neighborhood where most people can walk or ride their bike or take their new electric scooter.
It will be, but there'll be students from outside the neighborhood that will attend also. But yeah, it's probably one of the more neighborhood style schools that we will have done in a long time.
Okay, great. And then it's planned to be an elementary school, is that
Yes,
correct? Okay. And then I also would like, and you said you were going to do that, Ms. Saunders, a list of the current properties that we have, and then the ones that we're looking at, because I don't kind of have that in my mind yet, so that would be helpful to have. And then with a map along with that, and that is all the questions I have. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Messenger. You're up next.
Well, I already took up a lot of your time. You were so gracious to meet with me and Mr. Rinaldi. So, I went and had a meeting with Mr. Penley and Mr. Rinaldi because I had concerns about the site and it truly relieving Harvey Elementary. Because when we got the document about Palmasola and the utilization, if you noticed, Harvey was the most overutilized school in our entire county. So I had some concerns. I looked at the zoning for Harvey to try and determine how would this really relieve Harvey, because that's my big concern. And I learned a lot of different things from Mr. Penley about, why this site was chosen, and understanding there's just so many rules about where you can even pick a site, to really understand that I really do think that this will help Harvey. I'm excited to hear more about the Artisan Lakes one as well, because I think the combination of these two will probably be extremely beneficial to that area, since it is just growing exponentially. I don't think any of us thought 4 years ago when we opened Harvey that it would be the most overutilized school in all of Manatee County, but here we are, and it just happened so much faster than anyone intended. And the same thing with Parish High School.
Oh, yeah.
It was just so much faster than anybody truly intended or thought would happen. And I don't know if it's the pandemic that made things happen so much faster and people just came here so much quicker. But it grew a lot faster than I think anyone had expected. So I really appreciated your time and the information that I got, and it really helped me understand how this will help Harvey, and that's vital. Just because that school is busting at the seams, and William, we are planning to build a wing there, and they were already not at full capacity. So, I think there will be some really hard decisions to come once this school is built on zoning.
Yeah.
That will be the really difficult thing for this board to work through, but that's a few years from now. So I appreciate your due diligence. I know how much work it's taken to get this to us. I know how much planning and thought has come about to get this here. And so I really do appreciate that. I know it's especially in the situation we're in where it's just growing and growing and growing so quickly, it's difficult for sure. And with the constraints that are put on where we can buy and build, that's big. So I just want to thank you. I appreciate, I know that you are part of it. I know that the superintendent was part of it. I know Mr. Rinaldi's part of it, but I appreciate all of you working as quickly as possible to try and help Harvey and relieve that school, because it's just,
Yeah.
so. The only other thing that I wanted to talk about was sidewalks, which is something that was already mentioned, but I know that we are required to put sidewalks on our site, and I would expect that since this is going to be in a development, that there will be sidewalks throughout that development. But that's a huge thing, and I know that there are community groups that are working together to try and even push the county even more to put in more sidewalks on Rye and Erie and other locations. But that will be big, to me, even more important than at Parish, because at Parish there were high schoolers. This is going to be elementary school kids. We need to make sure there are sidewalks there. So I know that we'll have that discussion later about a letter. I think that that's a really good idea. I really like that idea. I don't know. We'll have more of a discussion about what it should say and all those types of things, but I think that that's a very smart idea on our behalf. So.
And if I may, there will be sidewalks throughout the development. It is required by the Land Development Code, which the county follows. And they'll also have to place sidewalks along the frontage of Rye and Rutland.
Okay.
And I've seen the preliminary plans for the overall development. I think it may have been Mr. Cho. He mentioned that there were lots of trails envisioned, and those are multi-use trails. So in addition to the sidewalks, you will have these trails where people will be biking and walking and probably riding golf carts, and they're all throughout this development.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Foreman.
Yeah. How far away is the school from Rutland and Rye? Would you say a half mile, a matter of blocks?
Yeah, it's gonna be right.
No. Sorry, taking me a second. I'm just trying to envision this. It's between a quarter and a third of a mile, I would say.
Okay, so we're going to have a lot of people, because they are going to be coming from outside Rye Ranch. We're going to have a lot of people coming across Rye or Rutledge. Would that be fair to say?
I think the majority will come from within this neighborhood.
Okay.
But those Those would be controlled intersections where, like, golf course intersects with North Rye. That would be so there is a signal there. Or, who knows, could be a roundabout. That seems to be the thing now.
No.
Oh, jeez.
No, I just look at this and say, if we purchased a piece of property further south than what is proposed here, would that eliminate some of the concerns about crossing major roads, and would it also be more conducive to a neighborhood thing? You know, I mean, like, it's good to have residences surrounding the property. It gives more people, more residents of that community access, easy access to the school. I think one of the most important decisions the board makes is the location of a school, you know, because can't undo that.
So you're talking about going outside of Rye Ranch to purchase the site, because Rye Ranch is pretty large.
Rye Ranch is south. I mean, if you went south, that's still Rye Ranch, right?
It's still Rye Ranch, yes.
Okay, and north of Rutledge is going to be a new development. Is that correct?
There's a lot of new developments up there.
Ms. Foreman, this site in conjunction was given to us for the proximity of the owner of the property where they were willing to deal based on their planned development.
Well, and you can see that. I mean, that is probably in a development that's probably one of the least attractive parcels.
So
for homes.
So when you're trying to get property, and I'll just tell you the process. Mr. Penley comes back from a county commission meeting that they've approved 10,000 homes, and he says, Saunders, we need X number of schools based on the land approval.
I don't call her Saunders.
Yeah, something like that. And so we sit down on a map and we start drawing out parcels of property of the area of where we need these schools to be. And then his job is to go find people that own the land in those areas and to try to come up with, are you willing to sell us the property? This landowner has 30,000 acres. Mm-hmm. So it's not just about where we want to put the school, it's we need it in this area. What are you willing to work with us on? And we need 20 acres for this, we need 40 acres for that, we need 90 acres for a high school. Can we do it, you know, can we do business? This deal has taken us and Mr. Dye 2 years? 2 years. And if you ask these two gentlemen, they'll say that it's been a hard negotiation. I've had many conversations involved with this to get us here. So saying to them, can you move it 2 miles or 3 miles, isn't as simple as us being able to just do that, because they're planning their whole development out also in conjunction with this conversation. And this is the first school on their property. I do think it will be much easier moving forward developing the 30,000 acres, but they have to understand the rules that they have to follow, and then they're also trying to put in their planned development with the parks and the, you know, the trails and so forth. So I don't know that we can get it moved because they're also working on a middle school site and a high school site for us. But you know, Mike, you've got the map. Is it that simple to move it?
It's not, and, you know, I mean, part of the issue.
It's not that simple.
Yeah, I mean, this is, what did I say earlier, 619 elementary students. I mean, part of the thought process is that we project 619 students coming out of this development that would be walking to this school because it's certainly within the 2-mile range. And that would take trips off the road. Now, yes, are cars going to need to cross Rutland? Yes, they will. And they're going to need to cross North Rye Road. But pretty much anywhere you go, that's going to happen. The problem if we move it south, I believe it's the same landowner, but they don't have any approvals for development down there. So your school is going to be sitting on a main road. It's going to front.
And that's what I want to try to avoid.
Yeah. But they're building the infrastructure to get to this school.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have infrastructure planned south of there.
Okay. Where is the Rye Ranch going to be? Is it going to be north of Rutland or west? Or west of Rye Road? I mean,
Can't be
where
west
is
of
this?
Rye Road because there's already development there at Twin Rivers.
Yeah, it is. It is east of Rye Road, North Rye Road, and southwest of Rutland Road, which kind of runs at a diagonal.
If you see it on the satellite, you see the fields.
So if you go
that
south, a little further south, I mean, that's still the development. I'm just,
Yeah. The development extends for quite a ways,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
but they're just not, that's not where they're working right now. They don't put in infrastructure for all 3,500 units at one time.
Okay.
They phase this. So if we go back with them and say, okay, we're interested in a site down here, that may be 3 or 4 years before they put any infrastructure in there. I don't know that. I'm just saying that could happen. This is where they've committed to put infrastructure in.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Spray?
Yep. Like Ms. Messenger said, there's gonna be a time we're gonna have to do the redistricting of some of these schools anyway. And to Ms. Farman's point, the main roads, I mean, we have how many schools on main roads right now that it is, and, you know, some of the upgrades that we're doing and remodeling is gonna redirect traffic around that. So we really need to consider when this is going on, that we need to be mindful of that. And to Mr. Tatum's point, the quarterly governance meetings, I fully support having a united meeting with, I mean, it's, Chair Choate may go, Ms. Saunders is there, Mr. Penley there, but we're getting it, you know, slowly filtered to us. I think having that joint meeting would be a good thing for future development out there, because I think it's gonna keep going east, to be honest with you. I mean, we can't stop progress. A lot of people wanna say you can, but you can't. We can't tell people what to do with their property. We react to what's going on in our community, and this is what we're doing here. We're reacting because so much development is going on out there, and you're predicting, I don't know, how capacity, we would have to think how big the capacity is gonna be for this school. You know, you're projecting 619, I'm saying I bet you it's gonna be more than that because of the school choice too. You know, once we build a school, you may have people want a school choice to that school out of Harvey and Williams and other schools in the area. So I think there's gonna be a lot of traffic coming in from 64 to this area and from 62 in Parish, so I just think that it's gonna be massive out there, and I think this spot is actually prime for what we would need for parents to get to. I couldn't see going south and being closer to the water. I think right there in the middle where that Y's in together would be, or V's in, I guess it is, according to this map, would be ideal. And you said that Harvey is about 6 miles away, you said?
It is exactly 6 miles.
Exactly 6 miles? Okay.
We try now to spread them around 5 if we can, just so that we have enough distance and.
That makes it more community-oriented, in my opinion. Just like with Manatee Elementary, Onego, Samoset, I mean, Wakeland, there's just, a couple of miles sometimes between the two. I think it's an ideal spot, in my opinion, for this. Again, working with the developer to make sure that our needs are met before we actually start putting concrete in. And if they have dirt that we can take that's cheaper, we'll take it. So, because that's expensive.
It is.
It's very expensive. So I would support this measure.
Thank you. And just the Council of Governments, we're all invited to.
Oh, I've not, see,
Yeah.
I've not gotten.
Yeah, so the last one was maybe a month or so ago.
I guess
We're
I
all invited to the county. Yeah, so it's all of us and all the commissioners, city council, men
Okay.
and women, everybody, yeah. Mr. Tatum?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had one last question. Is it a gated community, Rye Ranch? Will it be a gated community?
There may be gates on some of the neighborhoods, but the roads are going to be public roads. So those will not be, let me rephrase it. The primary roads within the development will be public roads. Now, would a small subdivision there have a gate? It's very possible.
But the access to the school, people won't have to go through
Correct.
gates to get to the school.
That is correct.
Okay, something like down off of Lorraine Road, our school down there, is that Willis down there?
That is Willis.
Well, Williams.
Like that.
Or, well, we've got, it depends where you're talking. We've got McNeil, we've got Nolan,
Farther down Lorraine is Willis.
and that's Willis down at the Masters Avenue. And
So the 4-lane road to get there is public there, but then there's some gated communities.
Yes, sir.
That's just wanted to make sure that people
it's-
aren't gonna have to go up to the gate and go, I'd like to take my kid to school.
And I don't even know that any of the communities will be gated, but certainly you're not going to need to go through a gate to get to this school.
Okay, that seems to make sense. Just wanted to check on that. And then the last comment I just want to make is I'm a big fan of these neighborhood schools, especially with our busing situation. The more children, the more students that don't have to take the bus, the better. So how many, I'm just curious again, remind me, how many children do we actually bus to Palmasola Elementary? Like
10.
10 or, yeah, I mean, that's an amazing thing. If you can get a school where you only have, with 600, 700 children, where you only have to, less than a dozen of them are bused, oh my gosh, what a big bonus. And it's a bonus for them too, as far as not having to sit on a bus for an hour and a half to get home. And, yeah, that's a good thing. So let's keep trying to build these neighborhood schools. Thank you. That's all I had.
I don't have anyone else tagged to speak, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Penley, for your info. So I think we're ready to go ahead and vote the approval for the agreement to purchase sale of property from Rye Ranch LLC. So if you'd cast those for me, and that goes 4-1 with Ms. Foreman as the no vote. So move on to, it is 11:30. I'm gonna take a quick recess and we'll move on to new business when we get back.
skeleton.
All righty. Call the meeting back to order. We are into new business items, no superintendent recommendation. Item number 1, approval of travel expenses associated with the school board members' attendance at the FSBA School Finance 2.0 and More Forum, April 12th through the 14th, 2023, at the Hilton University of Florida Conference Center, Gainesville, Florida, not to exceed $3,200.
Happy to move for that.
I'll second.
Yeah.
We got a motion, a second. Who wants it?
I already did it.
All right. So we got a motion and a second. Any discussion on this?
No, other than I'm looking forward to this.
I am looking forward to it too.
This
That'll be
one.
good.
Yeah.
Actually, I have one comment to make, and that would be, there was a little snafu with the credit card situation at our last conference, so just making sure that whatever process needs to be, what happened is that there's a limit obviously on credit cards, and the charge that had to be charged in advance, the limit was not high enough to accommodate the full charges. So I'm sure they're working on it, but just making us all aware. It's, again, a process for improvement, and just making us all aware that we need to make sure doesn't happen again, because that causes issues
right.
when we show up. So
I did follow up.
New person with that, Miss Cox. So just
Yep,
why?
she's on it.
got it. Okay, great.
And so we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of the travel expense, and that passes 5-0. Thank you. Item number 2 under new business, approval of governmental entity confidential settlement agreement between the school board of Manatee County with Jewel Labs Inc.
So moved.
Let's go. Okay.
Second.
We have a second, and so
I'd like to
Mr.
hear it.
Dye, if you can
Yes,
tell us a little bit about what's going on with this and your recommendation.
I will tee it up. The board's been kept aware of the status of the litigation, which is ongoing. And the recommendation I have is that the board authorize the superintendent to actually execute the settlement agreement.
What was the settle agreement?
In your manner.
Do we know the amount? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, the
I know it may fluctuate, I guess.
yes. So it's still in a range.
Okay.
And it's based on a number of complex factors. The basic factor is the number of students in the district, but there's multipliers that affect it. There's literally like thousands of school districts involved in the litigation. Manatee is a good-sized district in a national sense, so the estimated payment was around $300,000 or $400,000.
Okay.
But that could change, and it's also just the first step. The litigation's ongoing, and there's going to be other future sort of component settlements where the district, I think, likely will get some additional funds. But because it's ongoing litigation, it's confidential until litigation is completed.
Okay.
So I recommend that the board move forward with it and authorize the superintendent to execute the settlement documents.
We do have a speaker lit up. Ms. Messner.
I just want to make sure I understand. The motion that came before us was an approval of, as it reads. Are you saying that we should edit our motion to say authorize the superintendent to enter into? Or are you saying as it stands, it's appropriate?
I think I think it's a good point you raised. I would recommend you amend to authorize the superintendent to enter into the settlement agreement
Okay.
on behalf of the board.
I would like to amend my motion to read, authorize the superintendent to enter into I'm trying to think of the best way to word that. Enter into the confidential settlement agreement between the school board of Manatee County, Florida, with Jewel Labs, Inc.
Perfect.
Does the seconder approve my
Seconder
amendment?
approves of that amendment. That's
Okay.
a great amendment.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood what you were saying there. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So we're just adding.
Authorize the
authorize
superintendent.
the superintendent.
No, any other comments? Nobody else is lit up? Okay. Laura, you have time to put that amendment in there, or do you want us to just do it verbal? Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So all in favor of the amended item, say aye.
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 Any opposed? It passes 5-0. New business number 3, item number 3.
So do we have to vote on we voted on the amendment, then do we have to vote on the original motion, or is that all taken care of?
I amended my motion.
Oh, you
The
amended
the
seconder
original
agreed
motion.
to my amendment,
Yeah.
my amendment.
Got it. Okay, great, thanks.
New business item number 3, approval to renew professional services contract with Sherry Beckert to provide financial auditing services for fiscal year 2022-2023. Estimated amount of $172,000.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. No. Yep. Ms. Foreman.
Well, I just want to let the board know, this was a discussion at the last audit committee meeting. The letter was discussed, in detail. The amount is in accordance with the request for a proposal that they submitted 5 years ago. Thank you, Mr. Dye, to make sure that that was adhered to. This is year 4 or 5 of the contract. So, I appreciate the work of the audit committee. I recognize Dr. Agruso is here. Thank you for all of your service. And I'm happy to be the mover on this.
Ms. Spray?
I was just gonna say what you already did, that this is year 4 of 5 of this contract, and again, thank you for your service on what you do for the audit. We appreciate that, and then think ahead, maybe you might wanna get a better deal from someone, or get a cheaper deal. It's just, I think it's a good service that we have. It's required, actually, that we have an audit committee, so I'm thankful for all they do. So thank you.
All right, seeing no one else lit up, let's go ahead and cast our votes for the approval to renew with Sherry and Beckert, and it passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 16, workshop item requests. Any new requests that we would like to workshop, give to Miss Saunders, superintendent, when you're in your board briefings, and we'll put those calendars in there. We've got a pretty full calendar. We've got a workshop obviously this Friday that I'll have with the FSBA. I believe Palmasola's on there, and I believe the third thing is transportation. So any workshop items that you'd like to see put on the calendar? Let's give them Miss.
Added the one discussed today about the combined letter to go for the new.
And how to do that? Okay.
So that's already been added.
Perfect. Awesome.
I had one more issue on that.
Yeah.
On the workshop on the 12th of April, when the topics are review and board discussion, elementary reading supports, there was one organization that we already work with, Rocket Phonics, which is run by a gentleman named Dr. Gafanti in the community, and I would like to get the board's opinion on whether it would be okay for him to come and give us an overview of what his program is about, as well as just show us some of the results that he has, because he's already working within our schools, and that's kind of was the point of having this workshop, is to learn more about what we're doing as far as reading goes, because that's one of our weaker areas in the county. So is there maybe a 10-minute presentation by him? Is there any objection to that among the board or anything?
I have a question. Are you going to allow every other reading program 10 minutes to present to us? Because we have a lot of reading programs. I mean, I could list probably 10 right now. Is every single one going to be given 10 minutes?
I don't know. He just particularly would like to come before us and talk about his his project. And if other ones came, then we could limit it to 3, or we could limit it to 5, or I don't, that's why I'm bringing it up. I mean, I am interested in knowing what it is that he does, and I think it would be useful for us to know what's going on. That's why we're having the workshop. Like, and yes, if 10 of them want to come and we only give them 3 minutes because all 10 of them want to speak, but just to give us, I'd like to know, like, what are we doing within the school system to work on this reading problem? Because I would like to know, like, how many of them are there, and what are they doing, and which ones are working, and which ones aren't working.
Is that program used in our school system during the school day?
No,
I think
at this time, it's in one location, and it is after school, and it serves 10 students.
Can I interject here just real quick? I don't know what the workshop. There's been no discussion yet as far as what the workshop was going to look like in general, right? I mean, I haven't seen any agenda. I mean, obviously we know the items, but I'm saying, was it Mr. Calloway, and were they going to come in and talk about what's going on? So So that's my first question: is do we even have that agenda? Do we even have what we're going to present and how we're going to present it even discussed? I'm assuming they would discuss some of the reading initiatives and programs we're using.
Yes, sir. Right now, you will receive that PowerPoint a minimum of a week in advance. I've already looked at the draft. It is going over all of our reading support programs that we use with data provided on those, as well as our, we have our community group, our campaign for grade level reading persons that are comprised of United Way, Early Learning Coalition, the Patterson Foundation. So we have that information as well, all of our supports, what our core is, what the plan for the future is. And we do have data and what we've done changing with our dyslexia group. We have some of that. And then what our proposal is on the future. So that's what it looks like right now.
Okay. Let me go back to my board. Sorry, I went to my calendar and.
Right.
But that is an after-school intervention. We have many after-school supports. We have Boys and Girls Club. We have United Way. We have many outside. We have Kiwanis. We have many outside organizations that provide supports if schools choose, if they partner and so forth. We have a list. And that is one, and it is currently at one school, and we do have data on their program.
I have Ms. Spray and then Ms. Foreman.
Okay. I would support Dr. Gufani coming in to give us an update on how that, because it is at Samoset. And I toured Samoset this past week, and I asked about the Rocket Phonics program there, and from what I get from them, they like the program. I think it's got a huge success rate, and I mean, we had, not too long ago, the Rotary was here and presented what they do and the books that they give us. So I don't think it would be out of line for anyone to come and present to us what they're doing to help improve our reading levels in any school. So I would say, yeah, bring him in, and anyone else that wants to give us an idea of what the success rate is of their programs. I know when there was a discussion about the dyslexia, I think it was Manatee Education Foundation came in and presented some of that. So I would support him coming and telling us about the program, and maybe even expand it if it's only at one school. I thought they were rotating to a couple of schools, but what you're saying, it's only at the one. But yeah, I would support it.
Ms. Foreman?
Yeah. No, I am familiar with the program, and went one summer and watched it being in place at a summer program, and it's very phonics heavy, which I absolutely love. But I think we don't have we don't make a decision, and I don't think any of us are qualified to make a decision on curriculum without the input from people who are educated in this. And I would prefer to ask that Dr. Breslin and whoever thinks she's appropriate to meet one-on-one with Dr. Galfanti before the workshop, and then she can present what she thinks of it and how it could be implemented in the district. I think that would be more conducive to actually get something accomplished, and I would like to see someone who's been trained in curriculum and education to do it. And I understand Ms. Messenger's concerns about having one person given preference to come in and present, because we could find ourselves, one of our policies is to not allow public comment to solicit for business, and I just think it's kind of borderline since it's not a classroom curriculum. And also, we need to make sure it aligns with the best standards for the state of Florida.
How is that different than other organizations like Ms. Spray said that come in and give us briefings all the time on what they're doing, like the Lakewood Ranch people with the book club? And
well, we recognize
they were being honored.
Yeah, they weren't doing a presentation. We recognize.
Hold on. So, if you just wouldn't mind, are you still lit up?
I mean,
but you can't stay because you're on there already. I just don't know. I do 100% agree that we need to know what we're doing, the programs we're using, the data that's there, and we need to see rocket phonics, fuel phonics, super fast car phonics, whatever the business is.
Oh, I love that one.
Right? Can I trademark that? Whatever the business is, and I don't know any of these from Adam, to be honest with you. I would love to learn about them, but I would love to learn about them from our district source that we employ to go out and look at these. And then if we want to get into the I would say the nitty gritty of it, then I like to then go meet one-on-one with someone and have more than 10 minutes, to be quite honest with you. But I agree with Ms. Foreman. I'm not qualified to look at programs and say this is the best one. I would like for our presentation to be listing who our partners are, who we use, and see that data and see what it looks like, and see how it works. And then hopefully whoever's presenting knows how that school works and how they use that. But I don't know if opening up to every single vendor who either we use or wants to be used, and them coming up and giving us their 5-minute pitch. And I'm not saying pitch, that sounds kind of negative, but explaining 5 minutes, and I don't know the difference between one or the other because I didn't study that. I'm not privy to that knowledge. I'm going to lean on the curriculum team to do that. So that's kind of my feeling on it, is I want it to be presented and see the data, but I don't think it necessarily has to be him who does it, or he or she. I'm sorry, I didn't know if it was. You said doctor, so I didn't know if it was male or female.
Yeah, it's Dr. Gafanti.
So I don't know if we need a board vote on this to allow. I mean, I don't really know what the procedure is here.
For the chair.
To figure it out.
The agenda.
Yeah, I would like to. This is the first time that I've been here. This is the first time we've ever even done something like this. that I remember, like really diving into a curriculum. And I'd like to see us start with the district first, see what we've used, how we moved, etc., before we invite everybody to come in and explain their individual programs, when we haven't even had a meeting yet overall on what our programs are and how we approach reading in individual schools. So that's my thinking. Ms. Spray, you just let up
Yeah.
to speak.
Okay, if we want to go that route, I would suggest that maybe we have Dr. Breslin reach out to Dr. Gufani and set up a meeting with them and give results, because this is an after-school program that started out as just trying to help some kids. And I have seen some of these kids and met some of these kids, and they just dearly love the program and what impact it's having on their ability to understand and read a word, not just memorize it. So I would say that, we do need to look at this. I mean, reading is probably our biggest downfall, our reading scores. And I think that anybody that wants to help us in that, we should listen and take note of what they're trying to do to support our students. Going into our school, after the bell rings, they're on our property now. So it is a program that we have already said you can go in and teach these kids. So I would say that we do need to have him at least meet with Dr. Breslin. And maybe you could get that in the works there.
I can give you a little background because I met the gentleman at an event a couple of years ago. Had Dr. Thompson and Sheila Halpin vet the program. This is not a volunteer-based program. It is, a vendor. And so they did vet it. We piloted it at a couple of schools, giving them the option to use it after school. Right. And a few schools did. Samoset is still continuing, so this is the second year. So the curriculum department, what I'm saying is they did have that conversation. So they do know about the product. We do have some data, and it is one of the items that we're using for the extra support. And it is in the presentation, absolutely. But we will list all of our vendors or volunteer community supports that are trying to make a difference. Books for Kids is no monetary fee. It's not a vendor. They're a community support with a Rotary, but they are part of that added support in our Title I schools. So that is one. The Kiwanis does a number of things. Boys and Girls Club does a number of things. So those extra things are listed, plus what we're doing in the core is part of that presentation. But we'll give the whole thing. And then afterwards, if anyone wants to meet and get further information about any of those products, we can certainly set that up. And, we're certainly vetting and looking at what we can do in the future as well. What tweaks do we need to make? What products are we going to get rid of for next year? And what products are we going to change? What are the things that have we begun to do that we're starting to see the needle move? And you will see our data in the K-2 is really starting to move. And I think part of that is the added interventions, the dual language, many of those things that we've put in, we're starting to see those differences. But I think it's a great suggestion. I know Mr. Tatum, as well as you, have expressed your concern. I think this is our first big deep dive, as Chair Choate said, of the whole reading plan. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you guys can determine, now what do we need to do for next steps? What additional information or expansion is the board wanting to see from that? So I think that's a good place to start with data.
Okay.
So is Rocket Phonics, are we paying Rocket Phonics?
Yeah, that's a vendor, you're saying vendor.
I do believe it's a vendor.
I'll have to check with them. I
Yes,
understand.
and there's,
It is a all-volunteer program, but maybe I'm mistaken.
there's one-on-one people that deliver it, but, yeah, I don't know that it's set up like the Rotary where they come in, they bring the books and da. So, but I'll have that. That was my understanding, but I could be wrong about that as well. So that part we'll find out.
Yeah,
about. Because if it is a vendor, I think it goes back to what Ms. Foreman was stating. If it's someone has a contract of service with someone, that's different than volunteers coming into work. That's a not.
Well, I know they have volunteers that
serve their program.
serve with that, right.
But with that, we gave the Title I schools the option of adding that as one of their list of services. And they have been working with Samoset for 2 years now in a row. They were working with 3 schools. I don't know why they're not at the other 2, but that information we will have.
Lack of volunteers, I think.
And it could be, and that's one of the things that will, when the product you have, you're delivering with a one-on-one to deliver, does make it challenging. But, so I'll find out why about the other 2, and then we'll find out if it's a vendor for cost or just complete volunteer as well. So, that part I'm not sure of.
Okay.
But that will be part of that information that we give you.
On Friday. Yeah, all right. Or well, in that workshop, yeah.
So is it the board, I mean, the chairman's, I think it's your policy, but way of doing business, modus operandi, I guess, that it just seems I'm watching a lot of videos before I got into office here, that there were organizations that often came and gave us a briefing about what it is that they were doing, and it's a workshop, it's not a board meeting where we're making decisions. The whole point of it was to try and just become more familiar. Like if I have a question about Rocket Phonics, I don't know that Dr. Breslin is an expert on it. The whole point of the workshop was to, if other, maybe not vendors, but volunteer organizations that are helping. I guess the point is, can we never then have more public involvement with what we're doing by having volunteer organizations come and give us a quick briefing on, here's my program and here's what it looks like and here's what I'm doing. And it's for information purposes. It's not for us to necessarily buy their product, because I don't think that's even a vendor anyway. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, is how do we get more public? And here's someone who has a volunteer organization that they're working with us and they say, I'd really like to come and just give you a short briefing on what we're doing and show you our results. And the answer is no, you can't do that. How do we?
I don't think the answer is no for me.
Okay.
I just don't know this is the particular time,
Okay.
because we're just starting it. Like what I mean, starting it. I mean, for me, I don't even know. We haven't sat down and really looked at any of the programs and what they're doing and how. So we haven't even sat as a district and had since I've been here in the year or so, to sit here and do this. I'm not saying no, we won't ever do. I would love to maybe bring in the programs to do that and see each individual one.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally think it's better to go one-on-one with them at Samoset and see it in action and see how it works, rather than saying, here's 10 people, they're giving me 5 minutes. I would rather go do that and meet Dr. Gafanti and meet them at Samoset and say, explain how this is working. Explain and sit there and watch it in action, than giving 10 or 12 of the programs, I don't know how many we have, 3 or 4 minutes or 5 minutes to explain it at the workshop, when I don't even know as a district holistically how we're approaching it. Does that make sense? So to me personally, I would get more out of it by going and visiting that program and seeing in action and talking with the leader of the program, rather than just having them stand up at the workshop.
Well, I'd do both. I mean, I would do both. But the thing is, we can't talk about these things together. So if you go and you see it and you're like, hey, that's a great thing going on over there at Samoset, when do I get that? When do we have that opportunity to talk with the person who was running the program, ask questions of the person, get a briefing on it, because you might like it and I might like it, and then we can never talk about it again until it comes up at a workshop 3 or 4 months later or something like that.
Well, I think that, so I do understand your frustration. I see what you're saying. There's times where I tell the superintendent about a program that and it's not necessarily, this is an educational program actually, but schooling. It's like, right, we saw them with FSBA. I talked with the guy, sat down. I think it's a great program for us to implement. But I don't think that would have to be board approval for us to implement a program like that. Just like I don't think it's board approval, maybe I'm wrong, to have volunteer come on and do this.
Now, we have a process, so the district vets, because we have many people that have something that they feel they would like to deliver or work with or so forth. So we vet them, we see if they're a good fit with a school in particular, see if they're willing to, and then we pilot something. If we pass the information along if we have some success, and if other schools are willing and want to and they're capable of delivering, then that's how it continues. But generally there's an academic process, So I'm seeing right now, according to Ruth, she doesn't think that they're a vendor, so it would be a volunteer group is what it's looking like right now based on purchasing. So that means it's not for profit, but again, there are steps, as Ms. Messenger said, we make sure it's aligned, we make sure the school has resources and people there. What's your consistency of delivering with your volunteers, the service on a regular basis? Because if they line up that, you're coming to work with Johnny every day or every Tuesday and Thursday, are you going to be able to, there's a whole magnitude that goes into it. And but those don't go before the board to approve or not approve. Those are district academic working decisions that are put in place based on the outcomes.
So it's your call. I mean, I just would like, I've said this a couple times, getting more public participation in what we're doing and having leaders of volunteer organizations coming and just providing an overview of what it is that they do. I just think that encourages more public participation, makes them feel valued. It's a workshop, it's not a meeting. This is what the whole point of it was. But if we're going to do that, then if the policy is that no volunteer organizations can come before us and provide information on what they're doing, then we have to be consistent with that, which is a shame, because I think they should be able to do that.
But I don't think we've ever had anybody. So if you bring out the books for kids, that is we were recognizing them, thanking them for they weren't coming up saying, here's what we do, and necessarily pitching an idea to become one. I don't think that's the board of directors' responsibility. We hire someone to go find those people. Now, we may meet them and have ideas, and we tell our staff, this is a great idea. Can you look into this? And I want to know what you think.
But they're already doing it. It's not pitching.
If I could.
No, I get it. I get it. Yeah, you were.
I'm just going to add into that. This person or this group has been vetted, and we've been using them for 2 years. So I don't see any problem with somebody coming and giving us an update on what their results are to the board, because ultimately we do approve a curriculum. It's brought to us. We review it, right.
But not their stuff.
I understand we're not going to approve their stuff, but they've already gone through the process of getting into Samoset and have been there for 2 years. So I just don't, I align with you, Mr. Tatum. I think that if there's community that's willing to go out there and support the Title I schools and the students that need that little extra help, I would be I would welcome them to come and tell us. I mean, it's a workshop, like, it's a workshop. It's not like it's going to be, 5 vendors showing up. It's just I don't
do
think that.
if we open up to one, we got to open up to all. We can't just say Rocket Font is coming and explain. We're going to have to open up to every single one. And so it could be 15. I don't know. Where do we say no? Do we say we only want vendors who are or programs that we are working with? Or do we want programs who we're not working with? If they may feel like this is a really great program that you guys aren't using, I want my 5 minutes. And so that's where do we end up drawing the line? Do we allow everybody to come in here? And I'll be honest with you, I don't think us as board of directors is what we are. We are here for that nitty gritty way. I think that we hire someone to go get the best programs. Then they come back and tell us, here are the programs we're using. Here's the data. It's working. It's not. And we tell the employee, go find something better. I don't, because who are we to sit here and say which phonics is better program than the other? I love volunteers. I want every volunteer to be here and help. We need them. But I just don't know if that's the route to go. I'm not against Rocket. I don't even know the program. Seems like it's great. Sam has had it for 2 years. I personally would rather go see them individually than just a 5-minute overview of what's going on. We can get that same 5 minutes from the people that we hire to do this every day. Ms. Messenger.
Just a couple points. There are other outside organizations that have come before us and presented their information to us. They do it during public comment. There are community, I can think of one that comes every single year that we contract with. They come every year. They present their data to us every single year. They do it as a public comment. They publish a little booklet. We all get a copy. They show all of their data, and that is what they do every year that I've set up here. And you probably even know who they are because of how they present their data. Because I'm a data junkie, so how you present your data is huge to me. Anyway, my point is there are other ways for that to happen. That organization that I'm talking about that comes every single year, they have never been given time at a workshop. They have never been given time before, as a recognition or anything else. They come during public comment. They present their information to us. They give us a booklet of all their data. So it is received by us, and like I said, they do it every year. Other than, I just wanted to, I'm sorry, what?
No.
Oh, okay.
Mumbling.
I just wanted to say that I hear you want to make sure it's evenly applied, and I think the chairman wants to make sure it's evenly applied. I think you're just trying to refocus us on our job, and I appreciate that because that is our job as a board. So I appreciate that, and I agree. We want to encourage people there, but there are other avenues. I guess is my point. That's all I wanted to say.
So we can invite him for public comment.
Well, I would like to know his information and go see it. But I don't know all the programs, so I would like for our district staff in that to present those programs. What are we doing at what schools? What's being successful? Because as we sit there and say, okay, look what Sam has said, maybe doing extra, that's working really great. We need to go educate ourselves and go in there and say, what are you doing? You love it when you get there, whatever it's gone back to our staff member, the superintendent, and said, we need this in more places. And then they figure out how to get that done. And but that daily instructional, that is not us as a board to control. But it is for us to go and meet and see those programs, absolutely. But I do think if you do it for one, you got to do it for all. You got to do it for ones who want to get in, who are not in. And I just think that gets out of our scope. But I do want to make sure we have all the programs talked about, data obviously driven. That's going to be the key thing. Is it doing well or not? And then from that point, I would like, if we can, during that presentation, to have the contact on who as a board, if we want more information to go see it, who do we go contact if we want to go move forward with that? And then maybe we can go to the school sites directly to those people and say, let me learn more. And then we learn more, then we come back to you and say, we want this more. You hear back from 3 board members is saying this thing is working really well, and you talk to the principal and they love it, and teachers, etc. Then yeah, we need to maybe move forward towards that. But I don't even know all the programs we're offering or any data at all. And so I like to start from that point and then move to where we're meeting them one-on-one, if that makes sense.
Just to make sure that was my original offer, was have him come and do public comment. I just wanted to make sure he's not going to be shut down because he's a vendor trying to sell something, you know.
No, yeah, public comment, he's fine.
He's fine, okay, so he'll get his 3 minutes. That's a compromise position, I guess, for now, so.
And maybe from our workshop, when we all get involved in the workshop and we want to have them come in, and maybe that's discussion when we get there. I don't know, because I don't even know what we're offering and where we're at, and you know what's working, what's not in schools. So I can't even make that decision. So I would say let's start with what we have. I would like for the presentation, maybe not the presentation, but at least give it to the board. Give to the board the contacts we can reach out to. Maybe it's the principals, maybe it's the company itself, whoever whatever, to see where we can then further out and go out and be educated more on it.
Yeah.
So then that goes to with any other workshop deals. Obviously we've got FSBA coming, and that's something we'll obviously have in every single one coming up. So,
I have a question. I don't know if it's a workshop item so much as maybe a one-to-one with you that was brought up to me in the public, and it's about school choice for foster kids. They're required to go to I know a foster mother that has children and also has foster children, and the foster children has to go to a public school, but she school choices her children, which she would like to school choice with her foster child as well. So I don't know, maybe legal could look at that too. I don't know, but that was something that was brought up to me, and I wasn't aware of that. I did not know that a foster child had to go to our schools, and I'm not saying our schools indirectly, but any school that they choose. They have to go to the school that their district in.
Yeah.
Well, that's
yeah.
their zone, but the
Yeah.
process for choice applies to anyone.
Right.
If you're a foster parent, you're the legal guardian.
Right.
They could choose them, but remember our choice window is a very small window that happened from October, I believe, till December.
Okay, so they
So
probably
if they
got
didn't have
hired
that, but
after.
we're in hardship now.
Right.
So after that closes, we place those. We're in hardship, so there's still an opportunity, unless the school is at capacity that, but.
Okay.
Where 2 kids go to Miller and they get someone after choice.
Yes.
They're at Stewart, but why am I taking 2 kids who then the
They
hardship?
could do the hardship
They
thing?
need to fill out a hardship
Okay.
application, and that's on our school choice
All right,
website.
I want to make sure, because
It's also on focus.
when that was brought up to me, I'm like really shocked at that.
Yeah, hardship forms on focus.
And I'm not familiar, I don't have kids in school anymore, so I'm out of the loop on that, and I'm like, well, I will ask about that, because, yeah, that's hard for them, to do that, so, okay,
Thank you.
thank you for that. Mhm.
So we'll go on to item number 18, updates legal department. Mr. Dye, anything other than obviously we had the Jewel today? Anything else?
Get public comment?
We don't have any else. Yeah.
Super quick, I gave you all an update of everything my office working on, just to keep you abreast of that. I'm talking with the same attorneys that have working on Jewel, because they're some of the lead attorneys in that, about upcoming new litigation, mass tort type litigation. I'm just in the investigation of it, talking with them, and I'm not ready to bring it to the board, but it has to do with damage to school districts as well as just individuals caused by social media.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going to be huge. Not sure what it'll lead to, but I think it's worthy to look into it, and there may even be a chance the district could be bellwether type plaintiff in that action, which would mean a lot higher degree of damages, but more involvement. So, and it's probably also going to be in the 9th District, Federal Court, California, San Francisco. So anyway, that's just kind of interesting. I'm going to keep looking at it, and at some point I'll give you all a comprehensive update.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Operations. Mr. Wagner.
Very good. All right, good afternoon. Chairman Choate, members of the board. I have just 3 items today. The first one was the job fair. We had it on Saturday. This was our big in-person job fair at Manatee Technical College. We did a lot of advertising. If you remember, we pushed it out on Spectrum and social media and really got the word out there. We ended up with 170 applicants coming through that job fair, which was big. They were actually lined up outside of the doors of MTC before we opened. So it's a big deal. As of the end of the day on Saturday, we ended up with 36 offers for sure. And we had a number of teachers and other potential employees leaving with multiple offers that they had to think about. So we wanted them to think about that and go back and look at the maps and see where the schools are and decide if this is going to be a good fit for them. And so that's a big deal. We ended up with 126 teacher applications and 44 paras. We had the HR benefits, all the schools, the principals, the assistant principals were there. If you had an opening, they were there in Cantrell Hall at Manatee Technical College. So thank you for everybody who participated and came out. We also had, the operations fair 2 days prior to that out at the Wakeland Support Center. We had 44 applicants, which is a big number for those job fairs as well. And we made 22 offers. So we were running about 50% out there, which is a big deal. 5 custodians, 9 food service, and 8 transportation people we ended up picking up. So they're going through the process right now to get you officially hired. We have 2 job fairs in April, so we're going to keep pushing forward to fill our vacancies before the beginning of the school year, of course. And, we really are starting a month earlier with these big job fairs as well. So that's helping us get the word out there. Number 2, the Parish Community Chili Cook-Off event was Saturday. Southeast High School and MTC were there. That's a great event. I know some of you went as well. Those teams set up before 7 a.m. in the morning, even though they don't open the gates till 11 o'clock for the general public to come in. And then we followed it up with the Hometown Fest on Saturday also. That was at the Nathan Benderson Park. And MTC really, in my opinion, of course, stole the show. They had the biggest, best display of food from culinary and baking and pastry there. So congratulations to all of our students and teachers. They really go the extra mile to work on a Saturday like that to make sure people know about the great things that are going on in our school system. So those are my 3 items. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Instructional update, Superintendent?
Yes, many of you attended our Arts Alive reception last evening. Mary Glass and the team did a tremendous job. Jeremiah Bowman, of course, our whole council. But it was just an amazing show of our students. I walked away with a few prized possessions that are hanging in my office as well. And it's just amazing the talent and the support that we get from the community for our arts initiative. And it's growing every year. And as well as those that come and sponsor the event. So being able to give back and support our teachers, support our students, those that is their passion is a great thing. So thank you for coming and being a part of that. As well, I believe I've mentioned before, I was doing an ESE audit for our department, not a financial audit, but an audit of our processes. I've hired an expert to come in. I should be getting that report soon on tell me what things we're doing great. We've grown tremendously in the number of years. What things can we do better for the next year? So that report will be very essential for the next superintendent as well coming in. Giving some ideas of improvements that maybe we can make or should make. We also have On March 29th, the Spirit of Manatee Awards Luncheon. I believe you've been invited. That's going to be a great event. We know that one of those recipients are very involved as community volunteers, the Samanskys with our community partnership schools. So really, we're there to celebrate them as well. Just like we've mentioned, we want those that want to step up and help and give back. And it really is making a huge difference. We can't do it without our community support. And so that is one of the features going on there. We also have Elementary Spirit Night, a fundraiser on Saturday, April 8th at 6:30 at, of course, our Bradenton Marauders ball field. So they're giving proceeds back to our school district. So $3 from each ticket will go back to the school of choice. So come out and support our local schools. Again, another community partner. And remember, April 7th is Good Friday. We will be closed in remembrance of Good Friday on April 7th. So those are my updates, superintendent and instructional.
Thank you. Board comments. We're going to go Tatum, Foreman, Messenger, Spray, Choate. So, Mr. Tatum, you were up first.
In light of what happened yesterday up in Nashville, I've had at least one parent talk to me about what are we doing in our schools for security, and we can't talk about a lot of that publicly, but I would encourage maybe parents or constituents to, you can call us individually, we can have a conversation over the phone, we can talk a little bit about the guardians. For instance, I don't think there was a guardian in that school apparently because the police had to respond and come to that school up there. So we have a lot of things in place. We know that Mr. D'Amico is an expert. We have who's a former SWAT team member and is a nationally renowned expert on what we're doing here. So I would encourage parents to contact us, and if they'd like to have a conversation, make sure their kids feel safe in school, we are doing things above and beyond, I think, what was happening in that school there, to include actual either sheriffs or trained guardians that are former police officers, former military people in the schools. So just to say, we can't make it a prison, we don't want to make our schools prisons, but we're doing a lot to make sure that our schools are safe. And if parents or constituents have concerns, give us a call. I'd like to talk to somebody on the phone anyway, rather than do long emails between each other.
Yeah.
It's good to build relationships. And the other thing I wanted to mention, which I failed to do, I wanted to mention Pastor Richardson's church. That's the Baraka, which apparently means blessing in Hebrew, First Haitian Church. That's where he's from, and so I wanted to mention that. And it might be an interesting cultural experience for all of us in the community to, I might have this church over here that I typically go to, but I know myself, I split my time right now between two churches in a community where I typically don't go to there because I don't live over there, I don't have business there. It might be an interesting cultural event to just check out a church in a community where you don't go to a lot and try to build relationships between different communities within our whole county. And I found that to be an enlightening endeavor and has opened up my eyes to what is going on, because I live, in Lakewood Ranch, east of the interstate, and finding more out about the communities on the other side of the interstate. It's just been an enlightening event for me and a time in my life. So just encourage people to do that. Spread your wings and, try to build relationships between these faith communities within our county. And that is all I have to say about that, and that's all the comments I have to make. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Foreman.
Thank you. First of all, I would have complimented you on how quickly we're getting out of here, because that clock says it's 11:30. I've been messed up all morning, so.
I haven't even looked at that one, but yeah, we need to get that.
Oh, it is that. I have looked at it.
It's only been an hour and a half?
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot done in an hour and a half, so, all right. As you know, we all, Mr. Tatum, Ms. Spray, and myself, we went to Tallahassee last week and met with Representative Will Robinson and Senator Jim Boyd. And I think we learned a lot about the process, and that is, if we go with FSBA, their legislative days, there are too many school board people at one time to meet with the representatives. They're swamped, and we were only able to meet with 2 of our 4 representatives. And when we sat down with them and told them our concerns, because we did go through our priority list, and we stuck with it, and I appreciate that, it's too late. So what was suggested, and I think we'll need to figure that out, is to create our legislative priorities much earlier, actually during the summer,
For like committee week.
before committee week, certainly before legislative session. Get our priorities and meet locally with our reps. And possibly we could get something done. So, because everything that was on our list other than, which, as evidence, the Guy Harvey program, Mr. Chapman, Ms. Saunders, they had been working on that with our lobbyists for months ahead of time, and that's going to go through. So, I hope. So we're going about it wrong, frankly, and many thanks to Sean Foster and Matt. I'm drawing a blank on his last name.
Andrew.
Andrew, yeah, and he really herded us around. He took good care of us. So anyway, so it was a good experience.
You had lunch at the Governor's Club.
We had lunch at the Governor's Club. So, and this time we didn't have to sit in the bar. We got to go in and sit at a table. So, just saying. So, okay. And then just mention that this weekend is the COSSBA, the new national group, their inaugural conference, and I will be attending that Friday through Sunday. So, look forward to that.
I look forward to hearing what that's about.
Yeah.
Being the first one, right?
It's the first one. And I looked at the breakout sessions. This thing's going to be huge. I mean, the hotel's full. There are extra hotels. The number of breakout sessions.
Good.
It's a lot. So it's going to be very big. So.
Was that it?
That was it.
Ms. Messenger.
I thought 2.5 hours was pretty good, actually. We've been tracking a lot longer than that, I think, and I think it was more focused. So I think that was really good, and I commend the chair for that, keeping us focused on what our job is while we're here. So thank you for that. Other than, I just want to make a comment about the other side of 75, because growing up here, nothing was on the other side of 75 except for oranges and cows and potatoes. Tomatoes.
Yeah, tomatoes.
Nothing was over there.
Strawberries.
When I was at high school, they were like, oh, they're just building stuff out there for Lakewood Ranch. I'm like, Lakewood Ranch, who wants to do that? So just saying, that other side of 75 has existed a lot longer. Other than that, last night, the Arts Alive was a really wonderful event, and I feel like the art that was presented last night was just amazing. I think some of the best I've seen in the years that they've done that event. So other than that, thank you. That was it. See y'all Friday.
Ms. Spray.
I had a lot, but I'll be short about it. I thought Tallahassee was wonderful. The FSBA new school board member 2.0. We missed part of that because we were going over to the Capitol, and that was the week when it was 34 degrees. It was so cold. The wind was just terrible. So, but we walked, so that was good for us. We got our heat going from that. The process, again, I would say, agree with Ms. Foreman. We do need to look at that earlier, and we do have our local people right here. We have access to them, during the summer. We tried to schedule a meeting with Representative Beltran. His schedule was full. After we got back to the hotel, I got a text saying we could meet with him, but we were already back. But it was a good week up there. I thoroughly enjoyed every bit of it. I went to visit Lincoln and toured the school with the Principal King. Am I correct in that? Okay. Wonderful guy. That school is really good. I was real surprised that the kids, the bell rang while I was there, and they were so organized in going to their next class. It was and I spoke to the vice AP too. Excellent kids out there. And I also toured Samosat with the principal, and the differences between the two is tremendous. You see these little elementary kids walking around this little garden area that probably needs some volunteers to go spruce up. Yeah, so that might be on my project list to do. It was really good. I want to thank the board for taking into consideration of moving the workshop in May to Thursday morning at my request. I appreciate that. And then that ball game for the Mariners, I think it is. I did buy extra tickets for Samosat to go for some students because it is an after-school thing. So there's no thing where kids have to have accommodations from the district. So it was one of those. I hope they still know about that. Yeah, I forgot to mention that when I was touring. So I'm planning to go to the game there. So, and the chili cook-off that was mentioned from Southeast, they did that at Mixon's, not this past 6 months maybe. And I did get to taste all of their different chilies, and you get to vote on them. And the kids are just proud of their combinations. They tell you the ingredients they used, and it was a good thing then. So I'm guessing it was probably about the same thing. So, and the Arts Alive, that was my first time going, and I did text or email them, what kind of dress do you wear? What do you wear? Because I never know what everybody is wearing. And to your point about going to different churches, I do the same thing. My church has branches, so I go to each one, and even a Spanish-speaking one. I've gone to that. So, yeah, I plan on going to the community luncheon on Wednesday as well. We have a busy schedule this week. My whole calendar's booked. But it was a good meeting. I enjoyed every moment of it this time, and well, not this time, but most of the time.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes there's things. But I do appreciate you, Mr. Tatum, bringing up the rocket phonics, and I think the compromise of Dr. Gufani coming at a public comment is a good option from Ms. Messenger. So other than that, I will probably see everybody real soon.
You made a committee meeting.
Yes, that's right.
comment.
That's right. I was encouraged by Ms. Foreman. The education appropriations meeting was going on, and there was an opportunity for public comment, so I did go up and advocate for local control for when we're able to start times. But I also would advocate for local control for a lot of other things.
Right.
Went to the Consortium. They had their Consortium, that's it, event, and that was very eye-opening. I kept our little, everybody went up there, had their own agenda, their ask. So like Ms. Foreman said, everyone had their list of what their priorities were. And I brought home several of them, and oddly enough, we're all asking for the same things. You know, most of us want local control and the funding from the state, you know, not keep taxing our citizens, but get our state funding back up to where it used to be. But it was good. I was a little nervous about it, but I'm like, you know, they're just people like we are. It would be no more than a public commenter coming before us. And it was a good experience, and I'd be happy to do it again.
And you use your real name, not a fake name. So
I did use my real name.
Everybody's
Indeed.
She got on TV.
I was on the
Well,
screen.
it's spurned a call from someone, an interview, and I'm like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Miss Ray. And then I had to go find it. So.
Yeah, and then we also went to the hearings at the inside the house, was sitting in a gallery, and we were recognized that we were there. So that was kind of a neat.
Who recognized you?
Representative Will Robinson.
Okay.
So it was pretty neat. And I watched the debate from Representative Gregory on the insurance
Yeah.
and the process
tort,
that they went
yeah.
through on the tort, right? And it was like, that was my first time at the Capitol. I feel ashamed that I've not visited there, but I've watched a lot of it. To be in person,
cool.
it's way different. So it was great.
You left the debate about term limits for school board members.
Yeah,
Left
they
that
did.
out. Yeah,
They
did
did.
that right before they were presented us. And
Yeah.
then,
Interesting.
yes, and then Representative Robinson introduced us, made fun of the fact that it was right after that, and then he voted for it.
Yeah. So like, okay. So, but it was good. I
Good.
thoroughly enjoyed it.
Good.
Yeah.
I just want to say thanks everybody for the meeting. Good meeting today. Really thanks to the staff. You know, you all. I don't think obviously we come here and we get this info, we get the updates, we get all that stuff. But you know, thank you to Mr. Wagner and his group, and I know Dr. Breslin and all that, and Ms. Sellers. You all do a fantastic job behind the scenes. Just thank you. And I don't know if you guys get enough thanks, so we really appreciate that. I want to thank the mayor for giving us tickets for the ball game. I think that was right there. We haven't met yet. That was fun. Unfortunately, couldn't make last night. It's on my calendar. I really enjoyed it last year. It'd be my first year at the Arts Live. I love seeing the kids perform. I don't care what it is. I love seeing students perform. And so I'm glad that went well. Hopefully it raised some money for the program. And other than that, I do want to thank the board for moving this to the morning. Senior night tonight for my son. So I wish all the lacrosse players tonight to a good senior night. And other than that, hopefully a good finish of the year. We're almost here. It's kind of crazy. But to all the students, to all the faculty, you know, the last couple months are always still important. So thank you all, and we are adjourned.